好
对
，OK，
OK 了，这样的就
，OK，好，
好，我可以了。
好的，随时提醒啊，好了，我们也没有经常被拍。Okay, so I came to Canada when I was 14 from Hong Kong, and then I got my high school here. I finished after high school. I went to UFT for pre-med, and I graduated from UFT. I went back straight to Shanghai to study medicine. It took me 5 years, and I graduated in 2011. After I graduated from med school, I went to a pharmaceutical company as a director of marketing and clinical medicine. I worked there for 2 years. I imported 2 drugs into Chinese markets. So after I finished my job up there, I came back to Canada and resumed my pursuit to the medical career in North America. And I'm happy to be invited here to talk about the CPAC programs, about the mentor-mentee program, how it benefits me and Max, and how the doctors are helping on our pursuing on the development of medical career. Yeah.
So actually, when you studied in Shanghai, I'm just curious, was the content in Chinese or in English?
Most of the content are in Chinese, but since Shanghai is pretty international metropolis, so we got the English education as well. And besides, the textbooks is in both languages. So yeah, I mean, on the other side, we were both educating back in UFT in pre-med, so the basic vocabulary is actually not a problem for us. Yeah.
So tell me, sorry, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. You should jump in, right?
Yeah.
Sure. My story mirrors very similarly to most of the immigrants here. My parents were, my dad used to be in research, my mom was that as well, so we went around North America. We first started out in upstate New York, ended up in Kingston, and then relocated here. My parents had a change of jobs, and I just moved around a lot. So in '97, we came to North America. In 2000, actually came here, and then went to the same high school with this guy. Did pre-med in UFT. Afterward,
with me again?
Yes, with this guy again, of course. Afterward, I just wanted to change your pace in life, and then I decided to do business. I was in kitchen cabinet for about less than 2 years, about a year and a half. Things wasn't very prosperous. I did try my best. It was first time being an entrepreneur with the help of my uncle and my dad. And then I had no choice. Decided to close it down, and then I went back being a technician working in Western Hospital. So I was there for 6 months, and then I spoke with him on the phone. He said, why don't you try your luck here and come to Shanghai? It's a good place to get educated, and it's affordable too. Yeah. Not to mentioning there's possibility to stay after. At the time we were there, foreigners were allowed to take the Chinese medical exam, so if you want to serve afterward, you could. But they've decided to change that recently, so unfortunately we couldn't do that anymore. So it was a pretty good experience, joined my buddies. Shanghai is, as he said, metropolitan,
What years were you there?
So I went after a couple years after he took off. He took off in 2006, right after college. I stayed for a couple more years, and then in 2008 I joined him. Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been back?
About the same time as this guy, since 2013, the summer. So I finished my education there. Yeah. I just came back straight, and then his mom said there's this great program available sponsored by CPAC. Why don't you check it out? And here we are, benefiting it for the last year.
Yeah, for the whole year.
So tell me about your experience with Dr. Tran.
Mm-hmm. So where should I start? Well, in conclusion first, he's a great mentor. He's one of the best teachers I've ever met. I would say that Dr. Tran has a really nice, efficient, communicative manner of treating both medical careers, patients, and people like us, students like us.
I agree.
Should I add? I'm kind of stuck.
Well, actually, when I first started this program, I didn't meet him until March, right? And then I was expecting. I think in March. I didn't meet him until March.
October.
Well, I didn't meet him until this year.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
So what I was expecting to see this guy, I had this mental image because Lily told me that it was a Vietnamese Chinese person who's been here for a number of years. I thought it was an older gentleman in his 50s. I'd imagine a guy wearing specs, maybe balding, maybe pretty short, and then the guy comes in here, and then this young fellow showed up. I was like, whoa, so this is Dr. Tran? I was pleasantly surprised. He spoke in a very, I would say, very direct, to the point manner. He doesn't come out a lot of verbiage. That's the way how he communicated, which is great. I think for us, being physicians, you want to hear people tell you, this is wrong and that's right. He's pretty good with that. And then I would say, looking at him, is in a way he's sort of like a role model, right?
Mm-hmm,
He's
definitely.
able to balance his personal life. He has 2 children of his own, right? He runs several clinics. He has a lot of responsibility. He is a assistant professor at U of T, I believe, is that correct?
Mhm.
He gives
Yes.
out conferences
Yes.
all the time.
Have you been taught by him before, or
No, we have
No.
not the
No, we
pleasure,
haven't.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we haven't.
But he's able to balance all that and able to take care of his patient at the same time. He's loved by his patient. And we have, every time we shadow him, we have, over a conversation where a patient would ask, could you take another patient, friend of our friend, because he's such a great guy. Knowing he's a busy guy, he shouldn't be taking any more, but he still does, out of kindness, which is great.
Yeah.
And he's able to communicate in several languages. That's perfect. I remember once he was very sick. He was coming back from a trip from Quebec, giving a talk at the conference. He's pretty sick, and they told him, "When do you take a day off?" He says, "What am I going to do with 50 patients?"
Yeah.
They booked. They've waited for a couple weeks to come in.
But I thought doctors weren't supposed to see when they're sick.
He was wearing a mask.
Oh, okay.
They have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
because family doctor is running short in Canada.
Yeah.
And I think another thing about why Dr. Tran is such a role model is not only about his personal achievement, it's also about his ideas about how medical care should be like in future days. I mean, in my memory, when I first came to Canada, the family physicians are really hard to get one appointment. And there's a lot of referrals going on, and a patient has to, like, for example, my parents has to travel back and forth to get the results, ultrasound, to be referred to a specialist, which is very annoying. I mean, even just in one city, traveling a lot is not
Very
a
time-consuming,
great
yes.
experience for people with sickness. But Dr. Tran is setting up one, how do you say that, united experience? One-stop experience of medical care. So he is not only a doctor, he's also a leader of a team of specialists with internists, OBGYN, pediatricians, ultrasound technicians. And I think he's also pursuing getting the X-ray. Is it CT?
Yeah, he's pretty much
I'm
putting
not
everything
sure,
under one roof.
but he is trying to provide a one-stop experience for the patient, so that the patient doesn't have to travel around. He knows which specialist is great. He's trying to expand the family physician team so that more patients can be treated. He is the only one in the clinic still accepting the new patients, even he is working very intensely each day. So, I mean, that's the part that I learned a lot about how medicine should be here in North America. Not only about his personal achievement, but how we should see medicine as a collaborative feature in the upcoming days.
There's one thing I want to add here. Dr. Tran came here from Vietnam when he was in his younger days, and his family had nothing. He's a self-made man, and that itself, it's what North American dream is all about. He's living the North American dream where you come from a background with nothing, and then you can make yourself into something. And that to us, being, I think generation 1.5, if you would say, that's an inspiration. And to us, it's very important.
Can you tell me what a day would be like shadowing, Dr. Tran?
Richard, you can start.
So, I went to shadowing earlier than you do, right?
Of
a
course,
month
you can give
earlier.
some stories. Like
Yeah,
those.
so shadowing Dr. Tran is very tired because
He has a lot
we
of
have to
patients.
see a lot of patients, like 50. Is it 50 to 60
Sometimes
patients?
even more.
Sometimes even more. Depends on the days. Because he is doing this in a very nice way. He's seeing patients on Sundays. I don't think he even takes a day off every week.
I
He
don't
does?
think he does.
Does he?
No.
I don't think so.
I think he takes
So
3 or
so
4
he
days
actually
off.
works pretty much every day. Not always as a family physician, because he also works as the emergency doctor in some other hospital, but he chose to sacrifice the only Sunday as a family doctor in his
So-
clinic.
Are you with him?
Yes.
All 50 patients
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes. So basically, we see patients with Dr. Tran, each patient, how things goes, how things flow, how the history was setting up, how the physical examination was being conducted, and how each patient was treated or educated, let's say. And there's one thing great about Dr. Tran is he is really persuasive on people with strong ideas about medicine. For example, I have seen patients from mainland who is really obsessed with using
Antibiotics.
antibiotics, yes. And Dr. Tran is persuasive. He knows how to educate. He knows how to convince them that using antibiotics is not the good way to treat disease. This is something that many of us who was educated outside of North America does not see the points coming, especially on the antibiotics, because we do have a problem of abusing
Yeah.
back there. And by seeing him do such kind of persuasions and educations, we got educated by ourselves. So we know how to deal with problems like this in future, which is really vital for us